As always, would need to declare a conflict of interest. I've got many conflicts of interest, but clearly as chairman of the BGS Society, I am very biased in my view about what the BGS has done for surgery. To put this into historical context, I'm sure I don't actually need to tell this audience the role that Moynihan played in influencing the direction of surgery 100 years or so ago. Lord Moynihan was a product of the Leeds School of Medicine, although he actually undertook his degree in London. I don't know whether that's what set the tone for his slight indifference to surgery in London. But he was elected assistant surgery, progressed through the system, and was the first named professor of clinical surgery at the University of Leeds. He was a great influence on surgery. He rose to become president of the Royal College of Surgeons of England. He was knighted, he became a baronet, and was the first baron of Leeds. He was lauded by his peers, was recognised internationally for his contribution to surgery, and even in Leeds was recognised with the freedom of the city. But he was instrumental in creating this association, the then British Journal of Surgery and the Moynihan Club. And actually, I think, Derek, you and I have had to declare the conflict of interest that we're involved with all three of these Moynihan products. The BGS has always aspired to be the major surgical journal, but for once America actually got there first. The Annals of Surgery was seen in the late 19th century as the principal journal to which anyone interested in the practice of surgery would send their work. What was intriguing, I apologize for the quality of these slides, but I've actually taken them direct from the editor of the Annals of Surgery, and this was the best that Keith Limo could pass on to me. But you'll see that the Annals of Surgery was established in 1885 by Pilcher, but also by Keatley. Pilcher actually came to London, and it was Keatley who helped give the impetus to the Annals of Surgery. There were a number of worthies from Great Britain. If you can't actually read the small print, it's pleasing to see that John Chain from Edinburgh was there. Lister at that time was in London, although he clearly had been in Glasgow and Edinburgh. And McEwen from Glasgow also was there. So some of the big names at that time in British surgery were involved with the Annals of Surgery. But it was Moynihan who felt that there was a need to establish a journal in Great Britain and Ireland. As is currently the case, there was a much more international feel to the editorial committee, which was convened under Moynihan's chairmanship, with Hay Groves as the editor secretary. The journal was owned and published by John Wright and Sons, based in Bristol at that time. So these are the worthies there. Again, if you look very carefully, you'll see from all of the major centres of surgery in the United Kingdom, two of my predecessors, Francis Caird was there, and Harold Stiles. But intriguingly, a number of other individuals there, as I say, Hay Groves, the secretary of the editorial committee. The very first article was almost a valedictory address or introduction by the then president of the Royal College of Surgeons in England. I'm not actually sure if you can read this text, but there was very flowery language being used at that time. The intention of those who are responsible for this journal is that it shall include the best, and as far as may be, only the best British surgical work of the day, original articles, comments, reviews, and criticisms. They had great ambitions at that time. You'll see confident appeal is made to our colleagues, not only in the mother country, but in India and the colonies. So really far-reaching policy by the editorial committee at that time. I'm also quite intrigued that Rickman Godley at that time was saying, we look back with justifiable pride to our great English surgeons of the past. And here you are in Glasgow, and you wonder why it is that the Scottish nationalists are in the ascendancy. It was Rickman Godley who was responsible for that. Intriguingly, the journal had a rather late obituary for Joseph Lister. But it's intriguing when you look at the very first issue of the journal. And here we see, 100 years ago, a plea for earlier operation for symptomatic gallstone disease. Some of you in the audience might think that actually the editorial policy continues or has continued over the last 100 years. Darcy Power was on the editorial committee of the BGS, but I want you to know that I've tried for a long, long time to get my papers published in the BGS, and I am consistently rejected by the editorial team. Flowery language, I'm not sure that our current editors would have allowed this. I hate seeing tables on their side, but in that first issue, the trend was set. And if you didn't like that table, then you needed to understand that there was no statistical analysis at that time. This is one table which has appeared on 5 different pages recording the individual outcomes for the patients presenting with symptomatic gallstone disease. But at least on this occasion, the conclusions that the authors have derived from this analysis seem to relate to the methodology and results presented by the author. Things have actually moved on, though, with the BGS, and I think that even Chris Russell, who's in the audience, would accept that Hugh Dudley probably had as major an influence on the BGS as he did in some other organisations in British surgery. But it was he, along with Crawford Jimison, who were instrumental in having the journal bought out from the publishers to be looked after by the charitable organisation that is, at the current time, the British Journal of Surgery Society. And of course, we've had a number of eminent individuals over the years, many of whom have been very involved with the Association of Surgeons, who have continued to improve the quality of content of the journal. I'm not sure in subsequent presentations whether these individuals are going to be identified for having allowed a particularly bad paper in or having been foolish enough to accept a particularly good paper. But the BGS is widely read. We actually believe that although its impact factor has not quite exceeded that of the Annals of Surgery, that our editorial team are doing a good job. The journal is quality and it is widely read. It has a number of institutional subscriptions, and license access is available to some 3,000 libraries. The Association of Surgeons is one of our privileged bodies, and the members of ASGBI receive the subscription to the journal at a substantial discount, along with the Society of Academic and Research Surgery. But in recent times, the journal has become much more Europeanized, and we now have associations or affiliations in a number of different countries, and with various organizations, agreements, such as with the Association of Surgeons in Training, where we make the journal available, again, at a substantial discount to the trainees. The Society is a charitable organisation. It is a business, although sadly the executive officers and the Council of Management do not get remunerated for their activities. We have an editorial committee that supports the activities of the Society and serve as members that meet at the annual general meeting on an annual basis. But the principal objective of the BGS is to promote the journal, which has changed its brand name over the years to BGS as Europe's leading surgical journal, but with greater ambition. The charitable activity also supports our directly affiliated surgical associations in Europe in promoting and advancing the practice of surgery. And the income from our investments and from the royalties from the journal allow us to support, in the past, research bursaries, but currently very successful editorial bursaries, which are bringing through the next generation of editors. We support organizations with invited lectureships and surgical prizes. We will support surgical meetings and societies across Europe and indeed also internationally in Australasia and in North America. And a particular success for our editorial team has been the running of workshops, as is being run in this particular meeting, teaching on how to write or review a paper. I was intrigued when I was looking for some background information to find that one of the ways in which the BGS supports ASGBI is clearly through its BGS Travelling Fellowship. You'll see that Jonathan Fawcett is in the programme as this year's BGS Travelling Fellowship, which we think has been a very, very strong benefit to the association. And you see he's made national headlines here. I think it was in the North Devon Gazette, visiting the local hospital there. Clearly, abstracts from this meeting are published in the journal. We have the BGS Travelling Fellowship. There's a John Farndon Prize for the best manuscript resulting from a presentation during the course of the year. We've supported the overseas bursaries. And indeed, we also support lectureships and prizes in the subspecialty or specialty associations that are underneath the umbrella of ASGBI. And in the past, we've supported infrastructure as well. Things, however, are moving on. We've now got two younger, more dynamic editors who are leading the way. The journal and the society have got a real challenge ahead with them, for them as they look towards the increasing emphasis on the electronic publication of the journal. But it is clear that the Society has done a lot for surgery in the past. It continues to do a lot at the present time. I hope that from this afternoon's session you'll agree that generally the editors get it right and that we're producing a quality journal, that the Society is able to support surgery in general in a philanthropic way, and its global reach is considerable and probably more than for many other surgical journals which are owned and managed by the publishers. So with that, I'd like to thank you, and we should clearly move on with the session. Thank you.